When Tom Jones burst onto the music scene in the 60s, it caused a frenzy, reminiscent of, well, Beatlemania. Before long, he became a staple in Vegas.
This is Tom Jones.
Women went crazy for him.
He's very sexy.
Some even gave him souvenirs. But the underwear bit soon turned into a cliche. The hits dried up, the audience dwindled, and even Jones admits he stayed in Vegas too long. But by the late 80s, he had reinvented himself.
You don't have to be rich to be my girl. You don't have to be cool to rule my world.
His cover of the Prince song, Kiss, became a top 40 hit. And he reached yet another generation of fans.
Oh my God, it's Tom Jones.
Since then, he's become a respected artist. He's now Sir Tom Jones, knighted by the Queen. Still performing, still recording, back to his roots as a blues singer.
I was born like this. I had no choice. I was born with the gift of a golden voice.
And he's written about all of it in his autobiography, Over the Top and Back. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meach you, Wendy. Nice to see you.
I sat down with Jones in Toronto.
Pleasure. Are we ready?
Ready?
Used to do this.
I used to do it so much, Mike. It's hard to do now.
Really? Yeah.
I got to do it with my left hand now.
Oh, well, that still works. So you're a blues guy at heart.
Yeah.
So how does the son of a coal miner from Wales end up being hooked on the blues?
Well, I was born in 1940, so after the war, 1945, I was listening to BBC Radio because that's all we had. That's the only radio that we had, and they would play a mixture of things. You know, they'd play big band music, they'd play classical music, jazz, and once in a while you'd hear a gospel song, or a country song, or a blues song, and I used to perk up. And what is that? Because it got to me.
And you got stuck in bed for a while with tuberculosis, of all things.
Yeah, I had TB when I was 12, so I was indoors from time I was 12 till I was 14.
Wow.
So that, and then I was listening to the radio even more then. So that's when it was hitting me harder than ever. And when I used to go to a Presbyterian chapel, that's the chapel I went to, we used to sing a song. I mean, we did a lot of hymn singing, but one was called The Old Rugged Cross. And I always liked that song. And then I heard Mahalia Jackson singing.
On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross.
And I thought, well, how come we're not doing it like that? So it started to rub off on me. So much so that when I was in school, I sang the Lord's Prayer, and the teacher said, "Why are you singing this like a Negro spiritual?" And I didn't know what she was talking about. I said, "I'm just singing it like I feel it." She said, "Yeah, but you're changing the melody." I said, I wasn't aware of it. So it was rubbing off on me at an early age.
You say in your book that you sort of saw yourself as the white Wilson Pickett.
Yeah.
Tell me about what happened. You went for a drink with Wilson Pickett, and he
Right.
went from
See,
your best buds to...
Right. So Wilson Pickett had a single on Hey Jude. He had taken an iconic Beatles song and turned it into a soul record.
Take a sad song and make it better, yeah.
And I thought that was incredible. So when he was on my TV show, I said, "Could we do that?" He said, "Sure." So we did it, and I mean, it's great. And everybody that's seen it since, I've said, what a great moment. And then so when we were out drinking afterwards, we went to see Benny King in a club in London, and then ended up back in Wilson's hotel room. And I said, "It's great, to have people like you on the show, because I really love singing rhythm and blues." He said, "That wasn't rhythm and blues." He said, "That was an excuse for rhythm and blues." I said, "It didn't seem like that to me." "No," he said, "because you're white. You white, people." He said, before long, we're not going to need you. We'll have our own TV shows. We'll have our own. I said, wait a minute. Whoa. You know, what's going on? I just love singing it. You know what I mean? But he got a bit, as we say in England, a bit unlovely.
So in 1965, you're invited to sing It's Not Unusual on The Ed Sullivan Show.
Welshman Tom Jones. It's not unusual to be mad with anyone.
You are so confident.
Yeah.
You were like 24 years old.
Yeah.
That must have been amazing.
Yeah, well, I was confident when I was a teenager. It's just that I couldn't get on television then because I was living in South Wales.
So the hip swinging thing that happened, did they really tell you not to?
Yes.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
On the Sullivan Show to watch the hips?
Oh, yeah. And they were telling me the same thing as they told Elvis 9 years previously. You know, I mean, I said, it's still the same because we'd heard the stories about Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
You know, on the Ed Sullivan Show. And they said, yeah, if you move like that, we'll cut to a close-up.
And not of your hips.
And not, yes, of your face. So I said, okay, I'll calm it down a bit.
Love will never do what you want to do. Why can't this crazy love be more?
Well, the women certainly liked what you did.
Yeah, but men did as well, though, you see.
But they weren't throwing their underpants at you.
No. But the men, I mean, I sang some clubs, men only. You know, no women. So that came later, that stuff, you know, I mean, and that was mostly in America. It didn't happen in Britain.
So did that, obviously it was a compliment, but it sounds like at some point you decided you didn't like that.
Yeah, well, at the beginning it was a sexy thing. You know, a woman actually stood up and, you know, did that. See, you got to look at the surroundings. It was in the Copacabana. It was a supper club. So I'm singing on the same level as everybody sitting around me. So they were handing me table napkins because I was right there, you know, and like this. And this woman stood up and, you know, did that for an effect from her. You know what I mean? And I said, you know, watch you don't catch cold. So that's how it happened. But then it took off. And then they were, you know, bringing them in handbags and all that. So then it became a joke. Yeah. You know, then it wasn't a sexy thing anymore. Not like it was at the beginning.
Where's that from?
Oh, that's a publicity shot. That's at the Diamond Jubilee for the Queen.
For the Queen?
Yes.
So you've met a few interesting people.
Yeah.
Over the years. Elvis. You met Elvis. You shared a house in Hawaii with Elvis for a while.
Yeah. Well, it was his house. He had rented it, but he used to. I was doing shows in Hawaii, so I was out at Elvis's house.
He asked you for advice. You write in your book that he said, "What drugs do you use?"
Oh yeah. It's funny enough. He said, "What drugs do you use to keep sane? What do you take to keep sane?" And I said, "I don't take. I like to drink."
So he was having trouble. He was asking you for help.
And I said, "No, I don't." And other people have said that, you know, that he would do certain drugs, uppers and downers. That's what killed him. You know, he had to take sleeping pills to go to sleep. I think it started with him with the movies, you know, because he had to take diet pills in order to get his weight down for the movies, and then that's got him on that thing. Then he had to take sleeping pills to go to sleep because he was on those uppers in the day, and they just, you know, finally clashed.
But you never did.
No.
You didn't do drugs. You saw a few drugs. So there's a few parties in London, a mound of cocaine.
Yeah, on the kitchen table in Lulu's house.
With straws
I mean, not with her, but there was other. Yeah.
Really?
There was a lot of rock bands in there. So.
Huh.
Which will remain nameless, but they were all, you know, there was a lot of them there, and they said, "You got to come in the kitchen. You got to see what's in it." And I thought, "What's in the kitchen? Let's go and have a look." And then it was this big. I thought, "What the hell?" I almost went, you know, because it never appealed to me.
I loved your stories of the early days and falling in love and knocking up the woman who became your wife when she was 15.
Yeah.
And you've been married for almost 60 years now.
Yes,
That's amazing.
58.
What does she mean to you?
Well, we're still in love. You know, she's the one that, she is like a part of me. You know, she's part of me, and I'm part of her. We wouldn't have it any other way. She keeps my feet on the ground. She won't take, and I like that. You know, and I say in the book, and this is true, when Elvis asked me all that, you know, what do you take to keep sane? And I thought, well, Linda's here, you know, she'll keep me. She'll keep you sane. You know, she'll do that, and she still does it, and we're still together. You know, that's the important thing. If you love somebody, because when we were teenagers, we fell in love. There's no doubt about it, and it lasted.
You were making out in a phone booth.
Yeah, well, to get out of the rain. You know, in Wales it rains a lot, so the telephone box at the end of the street was a good little place to jump in and get out of the rain. And I've got that telephone box by the side of my pool in Los Angeles.
That's very romantic. It's been lovely to talk to you.
Thank you. Lovely to talk to you too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, love.